We have some big news to discuss today as a recent report has come out revealing that a current Toronto Maple Leaf is on the trading block. So to break down that exact report and discuss what some potential packages could be looking like for this defenseman on this episode, as well as the Leafs' former coach. He has made a move to another Canadian team. So I want to stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we do, if you're a part of the 80 or so percent who are not subscribed, make sure to hit that button. It would mean the world to Darius and myself as we're on the road to 11,000 subscribers, and we make daily Leafs videos for you all. And we'll be having live streams and all that stuff coming out. But Darius, a bit of a surprising report came out yesterday night about Timothy Liljegren. And this has been a guy we've discussed in the past. We discussed him throughout the season, but he is now, according to a couple of reports, on the trading block for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they're actively looking to shop this guy. So let's get right into it. We'll break down the report, and then I want to get your thoughts on this because he has been kind of a hit or miss player for the Leafs so far this season and all that. So Timothy Liljegren has been made available by the Leafs, and the team remains open, very open to moving him this summer. So let's get your thoughts on that. We'll dive into the full report in a minute here, but he's open to being traded by the Maple Leafs front office. And this is something that's a little bit, not really surprising, but it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're actively shopping him, but I think they're just putting him out there as he's available. He's on the trade block. If any other teams want him, he's clearly up for grabs for anything that can possibly help the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him back with the team if something doesn't work out, although like the low cap hit and the fact that he's an RFA would led me to believe that somebody's probably going to want to trade for him, right? Like he can be of use to a lot of teams around the NHL. I just don't know if it's going to work out on the Leafs anymore. And we talked about it in previous videos. Like, I feel like he might have already hit his ceiling. Like, he might just be who he is, even though last year, yes, he didn't have the greatest season, and it might have to do with the injury he got early in the season in October. Yes, that's true. Maybe he does have more to give to the team, but I think over the last couple of years, he is pretty much what he is. Maybe he could have a little bit of a better season, but that's it. I think the Leafs want to completely rejig their blue line, so that'll be that. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back and then re-sign him to another, short-term, low AAV deal. I wouldn't be completely surprised, and it also makes him easier to trade in a way too if you lock him up to a new deal. So maybe not easier to trade, but still available for trade. So not too surprised here. I can't say that.
Yeah, in one of our videos from a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago now, we were talking about the different free agents the Maple Leafs have, both UFA and RFA. Liljegren's name popped up as an RFA and a player that the Leafs would most likely want to retain the asset for because some team would want to grab a guy like him who we think as Leafs fans have probably hit his ceiling, but maybe there's a team out there that think they can tap into his untapped potential. And you're looking at some potential mock trades here, and I think this is a likely, not necessarily this trade, but I think that a Mitch Marner trade, including Timothy Liljegren, might make a lot of sense because if a team is getting Mitch Marner and they want to add a defenseman, it makes sense for the Leafs. They can kind of handle that in the same trade. So I'm not necessarily agreeing with this trade in general, but I think the fact that Timothy Liljegren could be added into a Mitch Marner trade would probably net you a bit more value or at least convenience factor compared to trying to trade Timothy Liljegren on his own, whereas he's an RFA and there wouldn't be too many suitors, I don't think, for Timothy Liljegren on his own. Maybe there would be. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm sure there'd be suitors, but not ones that necessarily the Leafs will be, okay, we're willing to trade this guy for a package straight up for Timothy.
Yeah, and I can't say that I agree with this trade either, like you said, but I do think that there is something to Timothy Liljegren being traded with Mitch Marner. Like a Mitch Marner trade is going to involve multiple other pieces, so I could see Liljegren being involved in that. It just depends on the team as well, right? And how much salary they can take on. Because whether you sign Liljegren or not, if you're signing him for his rights, that team's going to have to, or trading his rights, you're going to have to, sign him. The other team is. So pretty interesting. A lot of salary is going to have to be moved in a deal like that. But I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that could end up happening in the same deal.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the fact that, again, these Mitch Marner trades will be hit and miss. We'll be talking about a lot of them, but if Liljegren gets added now, they're also adding one of their better prospects, Nick Eberzizi. If they're adding a guy like Timothy Liljegren, maybe makes a trade more interesting for other teams that need a blue liner. Because I do think that ultimately he is still an NHL caliber blue liner. I just don't know if it's going to be on the Leafs. Because maybe Berube has some interesting thoughts about him, but again, they're willing to move Timothy Liljegren. It's a report, and reportedly made him available. Toronto is set on a Stanley Cup appearance in 2025, and packaging Liljegren in a deal for an upgrade, either up front or on the blue line, may be the preference. Teams reported link, to be determined. So maybe they include Timothy Liljegren and a pick. Maybe they include Timothy Liljegren and a prospect like Abrazizi. if it's not a part of the Mitch Marner trade, and that will give them a better upgrade at the blue line, or maybe even a depth forward for the second line or something like that, or for the third line. So there's a lot of different packages that could be out there, Darius. But any final thoughts on this before we move on? I like it. I think it is time to move on from Liljegren. He's had his chance, and I just think that ultimately he might find it somewhere else. And I wouldn't mind if the Leafs package a prospect or something else alongside Liljegren, who's young himself, 25 years old, to get an upgrade. But got to retain the asset since he's an RFA, and you can't let him walk for nothing. So.
Yeah, I did like this player originally, and I still do, right? I think he is an effective player in what he does, but I think the Leafs are moving away from his style of play. I think it's just the fact of the matter, and they're looking to rejig the blue line completely, and he probably doesn't fall into their plans. So it has nothing to do with him. I think he's probably still going to be an NHL defenseman somewhere else, but I don't think he fits the Leafs' plans anymore, and we kind of saw a little bit of that. Obviously in the playoffs where he didn't play for a couple of years. And then last year he got into the lineup and kind of got blown up a couple of times. So I just don't know if he fits the style of play that they want to start leading towards.
Yeah, and a new coach, it seems they're going to be a bit of a new MO around Toronto. So getting rid of some of the older guys might be, even though he's not older, but some of the guys from the last season might be the way to go. But Darius, you're looking at the cap hit here before we move on. Like, it's not a bad cap hit, so that's kind of what some people say. Some fans and people may just say, keep him. See, 2 years, $2.8 million, not bad at all. Signed by Kyle Dubas up there for a quick reminder of the Kyle Dubas era. I don't mind it. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. And also while you're down there, let us know what your thoughts are on this trade, which we're not going to be breaking down today, but maybe in the future we'll break it down again. But there's one other thing to discuss, and again, it's very interesting here. So the Maple Leafs assistant coach has now joined the Jets coaching staff, so another Canadian team. And this isn't huge, groundbreaking news or anything, but we know from video yesterday morning or yesterday early afternoon that the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're kind of rejigging their coaching staff. They're having a lot of different guys coming in. Savard is looking like he might be the last coach. They have the associate coach, Lane Lambert. What are your thoughts on this? Nothing too crazy, but it's interesting to see that how fast the Leafs coaches get scooped up by other teams these days. Sheldon Keefe and now Dean.
Well, it's because they are good coaches, right? And even Manny Malhotra got scooped up too. And I knew that they were all going to get jobs elsewhere. I just think it's the Leafs, changing the guard, right? You need new voices in there. And that's just the fact of the matter here, right? You need new voices in there. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter who they are, but it doesn't matter about, the old guys going out, how skilled they are. Even Sheldon Keefe, like, he's going to find success in New Jersey, right? And this is just another example of that. Probably will find success in Winnipeg. Doesn't mean he's a bad coach because he's getting fired, but you need new voices in there and new ideas, right? Which the Leafs just couldn't get it done. That's it, right? In this era, they couldn't get it done. So they're going to need new voices, new ideas, like I said, except for Mike Van Ryn, who's staying on, but I did like what he did with the defense last year personally. So it's going to be fun to see where the Leafs go from here, but he was a good coach for them, right? At the end of the day, and he was going to find another job in the NHL.
Yeah, wish him the best of luck there, and it's good to see these guys getting jobs. Keith got one quick. Now Dean gets one quick as well. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this report, the current situation of the Leafs blue line, which I'm sure we'll dive into in the future as well, and the fact that another Leafs coach got scooped up by a Canadian team in this case. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know all that down below. Make sure to subscribe button, and we will see you very, very soon.